President Trump and Kim Jong Un, both arriving at the Capella Hotel in Singapore. They will soon hold their unprecedented summit. Joining our continuing coverage of this historic event, Cliff May. He's president of the Center for the Defense of Democracies, and it is great to have you with us. Let's turn to first your thoughts on North Korea and the likelihood that something beyond the summit itself, which is historic, but that something absolutely fundamental to denuclearization could be agreed to in this initial meeting between these two leaders.
Well, I think it's certainly a possibility. I don't think we want to raise expectations too high. I think that what President Trump, what I hope and kind of expect he's likely to do, is to communicate very persuasively to Kim Jong Un. Look, there are two possible outcomes to this meeting because I intend to resolve this problem one way or another. I'm not like the previous presidents. Strategic patience is not my style. We're going to resolve this. Now, one way to resolve it, you and I will emerge as partners, and you'll find me very generous and very helpful, and the next few years will be tremendously good for you and your country. The other possibility is I'll leave here as your enemy, because I do not intend to let any of my enemies have the means to wipe out American cities. That's not going to happen. So if I leave as your enemy, you have to expect that I am going to use economic means, perhaps military means, you don't know, and I will crush your regime. I will do that because I have to, because enemies of the United States cannot have the ability to wipe out American cities. Yeah. Understand, I'm serious.
Yeah, I think, by the way, there's nothing that says serious to me more than the fact that there were, 16 or 17 ballistic missile firings by Kim Jong Un last year. None since then. That is a complete reversal of the conduct of this leader and his father and his grandfather before him. So this man looks serious. He also has a mountain that is collapsing, where he conducted 6 military tests, nuclear tests in short order. The Chinese have warned him that not only is North Korea in great danger, but it also endangers the Chinese themselves. And there's only one country that can deal effectively with that level of contamination and that kind of nuclear disaster, and that's the United States. Do you think that's playing a significant role in the algorithm that's, that Kim Jong Un is considering?
It could. We don't really know, because, Lou, we can say that we have psychologists and people studying him. We don't know how rational he is. We don't know how megalomaniacal he is. We know that he would like to rule the peninsula. We know that he feels that his father and his grandfather, who were dictators of North Korea, they managed to beat American presidents time again, to delay and to get money out of them. And he may think that he's a brilliant negotiator as well. But we don't really know who he is. And I think one of the reasons that I suspect President Trump wants to meet with him alone with just translators is so he can take his measure. And both men will be doing that, sort of probe and test and see, is this young man, and he is a young man, is he rational? Does he want to succeed? Does he want to fight? I think that he will know those things, or I think he hopes to, very early on, and he'll see, can I do business with this guy? Or can't I? And if I can't, he has to know that America is powerful enough economically and powerful enough militarily to destroy this regime, and that when we talk about that, we mean it. It's not that all options are on the table. And for the past 8 years, look, Iran knew and North Korea knew that President Obama would never use military means against them. It must play on the back of Kim Jong Un's mind that this president might have both the will and the means to destroy him militarily if economics can't do it. And a maximum pressure campaign 2.0 could possibly do that, could bring this economy absolutely to its knees. It won't be easy. Yeah. China will have to be pressured as well. There'll be a lot of things you have to do, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it looks now, based on the trajectory that we have watched over these months, it looks now that Xi Jinping has made a calculation that this is the time to denuclearize North Korea. And the reason I say that is There's so many things that he could have done to impede it. He is risking much in permitting the summit to go ahead, which, as you know, he could have easily stopped. It seems to me the variable that is beyond careful consideration right now is Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, who frankly is no friend of this president and has little interest in aligning with the United States, except in the area of getting rid of the two Korea strategy that has been propelled by both China and the United States and the West since 1953.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, for President Xi, look, I think it has been convenient for China to have North Korea as sort of a pit bull biting at the U.S. pants leg and an asset. If it is possible that Xi now sees North Korea as more of a liability, especially if he believes also that President Trump will, if necessary, put America's economic relations with China at risk by also sanctioning Chinese banks, Chinese businesses, and other enterprises that do business, that work with and support North Korea in the event that a maximum pressure campaign is again resumed. It's important, though, too, that President Trump reassure the South Koreans and the Japanese that he takes their interests into account, that he's not going to allow short-range nuclear missiles for North Korea.
Kim
just
has,
stop
I'm sorry,
long
Cliff,
range.
let me interrupt. Kim has just arrived at the Capella Hotel. Despite some earlier reports that Kim had already arrived, this is obviously Kim now arriving there. And frankly, I don't know why those reports were being put up on lower thirds around various networks. But obviously they were wrong. And there Kim is with his entourage waiting to go into the Capella Hotel. Very quickly, Cliff, as we wrap up here, your expectations, what will the two men achieve tonight?
Well, I hope
this morning if you're in Singapore.
Yeah, again, my hope here is that President Trump will succeed in communicating to young Mr. Kim that he has two choices, and one means very interesting and good times ahead for the country, and the other risks the possibility that this will be the end of the Kim dynasty and the end of the Kim regime in short order in North Korea if he doesn't begin to be reasonable and begin to stop his threats to the United States, to South Korea, to Japan. And by the way, there are other things he'll need to do as well, if he wants to partner with the U.S.